Have you ever noticed it? In a high-end hotel, an art gallery, a luxury store, no one's leaning. Not against the walls, not on the furniture, not even when they're tired. Why? Why do wealthy people never lean on walls? Is it manners, confidence, some unspoken rule? Or is it something deeper, something about the space itself? Maybe the walls aren't inviting. Maybe the chair looks like art. Maybe you don't want to be the first one to leave a fingerprint. This episode asks, what is luxury actually asking of us? Why do rich spaces feel so stiff, so careful, so untouched? And what does it say when a room makes you stand up straighter, without a word? You walk into a room that looks perfect. The light is soft, the colors are calm, and every object seems placed with care. The marble floor gleams, the velvet chair sits under a designer lamp. You take a step forward and stop. You're not sure where to sit. You don't know if you should touch anything. The space feels more like a display than a place to be. This is untouchable design. The couch is real. The table is real. The room looks like it's made for people. But somehow, it isn't. Everything feels distant, like it's meant to be seen, not used. You're in a space, but not part of it. Luxury is supposed to feel good. That's the promise. Comfort, warmth, ease. But often, the more expensive the space, the less it seems to want you in it. You walk through a high-end hotel or a store lined with stone and glass, and instead of relaxing, you adjust your posture. You lower your voice. You hesitate before reaching out. Why? Why do so many luxurious spaces feel cold, strict, and tense? Why do the things that cost the most sometimes offer the least in return? Why does beauty at a certain level begin to say, not for you? That's the question. Because untouchable design isn't just a style, it's a message, one that speaks in silence, distance, and restraint. And the message is rarely about comfort. It's about something else entirely. A room can look like it was made for people, but still not feel like it welcomes them. This is the illusion of access. A space might have a couch, a table, and even soft lighting, but the way it's put together sends a different message. Look, but don't touch. The layout, the materials, and the atmosphere all work together to create something beautiful, yet off limits. It pretends to be ready for use, but it isn't. This tension shows up most clearly in luxury design. A chair might be there, but it's so low or so stiff that sitting in it feels awkward. A table might exist, but it's made of glass or marble, and placing anything on it seems like a risk. The walls are spotless. There are no books, no signs of life, no clutter. Everything is in its place, untouched. You start to feel like your presence could ruin the picture. This is by design. These rooms are not accidents. They've been planned and styled to look lived in without ever being used. This isn't just about taste, it's about control. Spaces like these aim for visual perfection, but they don't leave room for the body. They serve the eye, not the person. Every angle is meant to be admired. Every object is staged. You could walk through them like a museum, but you wouldn't want to stay. The psychology behind this is simple. People are drawn to beauty. A well-designed room can make someone stop and stare. But there's a difference between being drawn in and being welcomed in. Luxury design often plays with that line. It gives you a glimpse of something perfect, then holds you at a distance. That distance becomes part of the appeal. It signals that the space is special. It isn't for everyone. It makes you feel like a guest in your own home, or like you shouldn't be there at all. Take, for example, a modern home designed for a magazine spread. The living room has a long white sofa, a sculptural coffee table, and a few sharp-edged chairs. There's no blanket, no footstool, no remote in sight. The bookshelf holds only color-matched hardcovers. The rug is pale and spotless. It looks flawless in the photo. But in real life, you wouldn't know where to put your feet. You wouldn't feel right resting your arm on the table or setting a drink down without a coaster. The space looks good, but it resists use. This resistance isn't just about comfort, it's about behavior. When a space looks too perfect to touch, people become cautious. They move slower. They speak softer. They sit straighter. Their bodies respond to the message in the room. They sense that the space asks for discipline. They might not even notice it happening, but their actions change. Designers know this. The way a room is put together can shape how people move, where they pause, and what they avoid. A velvet rope in a gallery doesn't just block access, it tells you to behave. The same is true in a high-end store where the shelves are half empty and the mirrors are huge. The emptiness makes the items feel more precious, but it also puts the shopper on edge. You feel like a visitor, not a customer. That feeling is part of the illusion. You think the room is for you because it looks like a room you recognize, a living room, a bedroom, a dining area. But it's not quite what it seems. The materials, the layout, and the silence all tell you that this is not for daily life. It's a display. It uses the language of home, but rewrites the rules. The chair is there, but it's not for sitting. The lamp is on, but the room feels dark. The kitchen is spotless, but there's no smell of food, no drawer left open. This kind of design works by keeping you close, but not too close. You're allowed to look, to admire, maybe even to enter. But you're not meant to touch, relax, or take up space. You're being asked to appreciate, not to live. That gap between what looks accessible and what actually is defines the illusion. Sometimes this happens even in private homes. A wealthy person might hire a designer to craft their living space, and the result is a home that looks like a showroom. Everything has been selected, styled, and placed for effect. The cushions are perfect, the art is balanced, but nothing feels personal. There are no signs of life, no shoes near the door, no open mail, no mess. The space isn't alive, it's performing. Even when children live in the home, the design can still resist use. A child's playroom might be filled with wooden toys and soft neutrals, but the toys are too delicate to be played with and too pretty to be tossed around. It becomes a room about parenting style, not play. The child adapts or gets pushed to a separate, less visible space. The illusion of access becomes clearer when compared to older, well-used rooms. A worn-in kitchen, a sunken sofa, a bookshelf packed with paperbacks. These are spaces that invite people to stay. You feel at ease because the space has room for error. You can spill, lean, rest. These rooms carry signs of life. They might not photograph as well, but they feel better to be in. Luxury design often avoids these signs. It favors materials that don't age well: polished metal, lacquered wood, untreated stone. These surfaces show every fingerprint, every smudge, every mistake. That keeps people careful. It also keeps the illusion in place. The room stays untouched. The beauty lasts, but it lasts by staying out of reach. So the room becomes a symbol of something bigger. It reflects a kind of status that doesn't just come from having nice things, but from not needing to use them. The space says, I have this, but I don't depend on it. That's a quiet signal of power. It's not about comfort, it's about control of the room, the body, and the people who pass through. The beauty is real, the welcome is not. Touch is the first sense we develop. Before we can speak or see clearly, we reach. We hold, press, lean, and curl up against what makes us feel safe. In adults, the role of touch changes, but it never stops shaping how we relate to the world around us. This is what haptics refers to, the science and experience of touch. It includes texture, temperature, weight, resistance, all the ways our body learns from physical contact. When we sit on a soft chair, walk barefoot on warm wood, or run our hand along a smooth wall, we're not just noticing texture, we're taking in information. We're being told, this is soft, this is stable, this is safe. Our bodies respond in kind. We ease up, we relax, we feel welcome. But in many luxury spaces, touch is taken away. The environment might look clean, even elegant, but it often feels sterile. Everything is cool, hard, and smooth. You walk across stone, you lean against glass, you reach out and feel lacquer or metal. These materials give very little back. They resist warmth, absorb nothing, and don't change with use. They remain untouched, even when you touch them. This kind of design is not accidental. The absence of touch is a form of control. In places where power matters, banks, galleries, private clubs, you'll find materials that resist the hand. Walls that echo instead of absorb. Tables that show every fingerprint. Seating that's stiff or minimal. It's not just about looking good. It's about staying clean, untouched, above mess. It sends a clear signal: behave yourself. That signal goes beyond materials. It's in the layout. There's often too much space between objects. Seating is sparse. Tables are bare. If you've ever entered a lobby with one long bench and too many empty walls, you've felt this effect. The room keeps you upright. It keeps you alert. You don't melt into these spaces. You hold yourself together. Touch comfort is linked to density. The more layers, softness, or texture in a space, the more likely we are to feel grounded. A thick rug, a soft throw, a cluttered table, all invite the hand. They invite rest. But luxury design often strips these things away. It favors the coolness of stone over the softness of fabric. It replaces shelves of books with a single sculpture on a pedestal. It doesn't want to feel full. It wants to feel pure. Purity, in this context, becomes a stand-in for status. When a space resists touch, it stays the same. It doesn't wear. It doesn't wrinkle. And that becomes the point. The less a space absorbs you, the more it appears above you. Like the polished floor you hesitate to step on, or the white couch no one wants to crease. These design choices put distance between person and place. They make you a visitor, even in your own home. The materials used are key to this effect. Stone is cold and heavy. It doesn't give under pressure. Glass is smooth, but it's also fragile. It marks easily and breaks with force. Lacquer has a sheen that reflects light but shows every flaw. These materials don't welcome touch. They punish it. Even metals like stainless steel or polished brass are chosen not for how they feel, but for how they look when left alone. Now compare that to wood that softens with age, fabric that grows warm with use, or leather that picks up the shape of the person who sits in it. These are materials that record presence. They tell stories over time. But in many high-end spaces, that kind of change is seen as damage. The design aims to stay perfect, which means it must also stay untouched. This creates a strange relationship with the body. We move through these spaces, but are never held by them. Our hands find no texture. Our feet find no give. Our backs find no support. We sit without relaxing. We walk without touching. And all of this is quietly enforced by the materials and the layout around us. The body responds with caution. We hold our cups tighter. We step more carefully. We speak with less ease. That's the effect of haptic deprivation. Without welcoming textures, without soft resistance, we begin to shrink into ourselves. We avoid contact, even when no one is watching. The design trains us without a word. This kind of control has long been tied to power. The further up the social ladder you go, the less physical comfort seems to matter. Royal courts, historic mansions, government buildings, these places often impress but do not soothe. They're not about ease, they're about image. The hard bench in the gallery, the vast, echoing hallway, the office with a steel desk and one low chair for the visitor. These are spaces that say, I don't need comfort, and neither do you. In that sense, haptic deprivation becomes a signal of strength. The idea is that those who matter don't need to be held by space. They shape space by being in it. They sit on marble, not because it's kind to the body, but because it shows they can. The room resists them, and they don't flinch. That's the performance. This dynamic plays out in private homes as well. A luxury apartment might be styled with sharp angles, bare windows, and glossy floors. The bedroom might be more photo set than resting place. The kitchen might look sculptural, but lack the warmth that invites cooking. Even objects that could offer softness, pillows, rugs, throws, are chosen for shape, not feel. They match the room, but they don't serve the body. Living in a space like this takes constant awareness. You think before sitting. You move to avoid leaving marks. You hesitate to rest your feet on the table or lean back too far. You perform stillness. That performance in itself becomes part of what luxury demands. Not only does the space not touch you, you don't touch it. This is not just about discomfort. It's about who gets to be comfortable and where. Haptic deprivation works best when people agree not to question it. When we've been taught that cool surfaces mean value, that hard seats show discipline, that silence proves class, we start to think, if it's soft, it must be cheap. If it's warm, it must be ordinary. But this logic comes from learned behavior. It's not fixed. Our senses can be retrained. Some of the most welcoming places in the world, the ones we remember and return to, are full of haptic richness. They allow softness, texture, and even mess. They hold us without warning or test. But they rarely show up in luxury catalogs or design magazines. Because they don't signal control. They signal care. In the world of high-end interiors, care can seem like a weakness. A soft chair might sag, a thick rug might stain, a crowded shelf might gather dust. So instead, the design moves away from the hand. It becomes visual, not physical. It asks us to look, not feel. But the absence of touch is never neutral. It changes how we move, how we rest, and how we connect with the space and with each other. Haptics isn't just about comfort. It's about permission. And in luxury design, that permission is often withheld. Space speaks. In luxury environments, it often says, stay back. Distance is one of the most effective tools in high-end design. It shows up in wide hallways, long entryways, oversized lobbies, and rooms arranged so no one sits too close. These choices are not just aesthetic, they communicate rank. They tell you who the space is for, who it's protecting, and who should feel out of place. Class hierarchy is often invisible, but in the design of a space, it becomes physical. A velvet rope in a hotel lobby doesn't only organize foot traffic, it marks a line between guest and staff, between standard and VIP. A long driveway leading to a private home adds a delay before entry. A tall gate says nothing with words, but still sends a clear message: this property is not for everyone. Inside the home, this same logic continues. A large foyer with little furniture creates a moment of pause. It keeps visitors from stepping too far, too fast. They must wait, they must adjust. That pause is a form of control. The homeowner decides how close someone gets and when. Distance in luxury design often shows up as excess space, but it's not the kind of space that invites use. It's not about flow or comfort, it's about separation. Rooms are arranged to avoid crowding, furniture sits far apart, seating is minimal. This isn't accidental. These choices keep people from gathering freely. They limit touch, movement, and spontaneity. In high-end retail stores, you'll find this same pattern. There are fewer items on the racks. The shelves are mostly bare. The staff often stands still watching. The lighting is focused. You are being observed. You're expected to handle the space with care. Compare that to a mid-range department store where racks are full, paths are narrow, and movement is constant. In luxury, space is the signal. The more room there is, the more precious each item appears, and the more carefully people behave. This detachment isn't just about objects. It affects people too. In exclusive clubs or restaurants, the tables are spaced to prevent overhearing. Conversation stays private. Staff moves silently. Even eye contact is limited. These design choices create a feeling of calm, but also isolation. They tell you, you are in a rare place. Enjoy it, but don't relax into it too quickly. Physical distance also shapes how people interact socially. In homes designed for status, the main seating area is often built around symmetry, not closeness. Two chairs face forward with a low table in between. A long couch sits across the room. The effect is orderly, but not intimate. You can speak, but not huddle. You can meet, but not sink in. Design also controls access. In a luxury hotel, not every guest sees every room. High floors, special elevators, and restricted lounges create layers. These layers aren't about function. They're about sorting. The design sorts by price, but it feels like status. A keycard becomes a boundary. So does a glass door, a private corridor, or a quiet stairwell. You're allowed in, but only to a point. Even the absence of certain design elements can create distance. A lack of signage can confuse visitors. It makes people hesitate. If you don't already know where to go, you may not feel welcome. This is common in galleries, high-end restaurants, and flagship stores. The message is subtle but firm. If you have to ask, you might not belong. This sorting can also happen through material choice. A room with marble floors and high ceilings echoes when you speak. You hear your own footsteps. That echo creates self-awareness. It makes people quieter. It slows them down. The sound reinforces the space's scale and your small place in it. Large open layouts do the same. In a spacious home, voices don't bounce back right away. They dissipate. Movement feels deliberate. There are no cozy corners, no soft pockets of sound. Everything is exposed. The home may be private, but it doesn't feel personal. Designers use this effect in both private and public spaces. In luxury apartment lobbies, for example, a double-height ceiling and an oversized chandelier aren't just decorative. They change how people move and feel. You walk slower, you speak more softly, you become aware of your presence. That's the point. The space edits your behavior. Retail architecture often pushes this even further. In luxury boutiques, mirrors and lighting are used to frame, not flood. A single item on a pedestal feels more expensive than a full shelf. A wide hallway between displays ensures that shoppers don't bump into each other. This space isn't just about comfort, it's about control. It defines how close people can get to products and to each other. Even color plays a role. Light, cool tones, grays, whites, pale woods, create visual distance. They don't absorb, they reflect. They make the room feel clean, but also emotionally dry. This palette, common in high-end spaces, doesn't offer warmth. It offers clarity, and clarity keeps people measured. You'll find similar patterns in hospitality. In elite resorts, check-in desks are often discreet. Staff members approach you directly. You don't line up. The lounge might stretch out behind you, empty except for a few low chairs and side tables. Everything feels calm, but also deliberate. You are placed, not just welcomed. Your presence is managed by the space. In contrast, economy hotels pack the lobby with couches, counters, and clusters of people. The design encourages overlap. In luxury settings, overlap is avoided. Each guest stays in their lane. In private homes, especially at the high end, design often hides certain functions. Kitchens are tucked away or split into two, one for show, one for use. Doors are hidden in paneling. Closets disappear behind smooth walls. These design tricks create visual quiet, but they also create distance between the owner and the mechanics of daily life. Someone else does the work. The design removes the need to touch, to clean, to carry. This isn't just convenience, it's hierarchy made physical. Spatial detachment is not just about beauty, it's about structure. It places people in roles, guest, owner, client, staff, and keeps them there. A visitor can feel it immediately. They don't know where to sit, where to walk, or how loud to speak. The space doesn't meet them halfway. It waits for them to adjust. These silent rules extend beyond the home. In corporate offices, boardrooms often feature large tables with wide spacing between seats. The CEO might sit alone at one end. There's plenty of room, but that room is a barrier. It stops quick conversation. It prevents closeness. It marks out rank without saying a word. At the highest levels, design doesn't just reflect power, it protects it. The space itself becomes a filter. If someone feels comfortable, they probably belong. If someone hesitates, they probably don't. And if they don't return, the design has done its job. Space speaks. In luxury environments, it often says, "Stay back." Distance is one of the most effective tools in high-end design. It shows up in wide hallways, long entryways, oversized lobbies, and rooms arranged so no one sits too close. These choices are not just aesthetic. They communicate rank. They tell you who the space is for, who it's protecting, and who should feel out of place. Class hierarchy is often invisible, but in the design of a space, it becomes physical. A velvet rope in a hotel lobby doesn't only organize foot traffic, it marks a line between guest and staff, between standard and VIP. A long driveway leading to a private home adds a delay before entry. A tall gate says nothing with words, but still sends a clear message. This property is not for everyone. Inside the home, this same logic continues. A large foyer with little furniture creates a moment of pause. It keeps visitors from stepping too far, too fast. They must wait. They must adjust. That pause is a form of control. The homeowner decides how close someone gets and when. Distance in luxury design often shows up as excess space, but it's not the kind of space that invites use. It's not about flow or comfort. It's about separation. Rooms are arranged to avoid crowding. Furniture sits far apart. Seating is minimal. This isn't accidental. These choices keep people from gathering freely. They limit touch, movement, and spontaneity. In high-end retail stores, you'll find this same pattern. There are fewer items on the racks. The shelves are mostly bare. The staff often stands still, watching. The lighting is focused. You are being observed. You're expected to handle the space with care. Compare that to a mid-range department store, where racks are full, paths are narrow, and movement is constant. In luxury, space is the signal. The more room there is, the more precious each item appears, and the more carefully people behave. This detachment isn't just about objects, it affects people too. In exclusive clubs or restaurants, the tables are spaced to prevent overhearing. Conversation stays private. Staff moves silently. Even eye contact is limited. These design choices create a feeling of calm, but also isolation. They tell you, you are in a rare place. Enjoy it, but don't relax into it too quickly. Physical distance also shapes how people interact socially. In homes designed for status, the main seating area is often built around symmetry, not closeness. Two chairs face forward with a low table in between. A long couch sits across the room. The effect is orderly, but not intimate. You can speak, but not huddle. You can meet, but not sink in. Design also controls access. In a luxury hotel, not every guest sees every room. High floors, special elevators, and restricted lounges create layers. These layers aren't about function, they're about sorting. The design sorts by price, but it feels like status. A keycard becomes a boundary, so does a glass door, a private corridor, or a quiet stairwell. You're allowed in, but only to a point. Even the absence of certain design elements can create distance. A lack of signage can confuse visitors. It makes people hesitate. If you don't already know where to go, you may not feel welcome. This is common in galleries, high-end restaurants, and flagship stores. The message is subtle but firm. If you have to ask, you might not belong. This sorting can also happen through material choice. A room with marble floors and high ceilings echoes when you speak. You hear your own footsteps. That echo creates self-awareness. It makes people quieter. It slows them down. The sound reinforces the space's scale and your small place in it. Large, open layouts do the same. In a spacious home, voices don't bounce back right away. They dissipate. Movement feels deliberate. There are no cozy corners, no soft pockets of sound. Everything is exposed. The home may be private, but it doesn't feel personal. Designers use this effect in both private and public spaces. In luxury apartment lobbies, for example, a double-height ceiling and an oversized chandelier aren't just decorative. They change how people move and feel. You walk slower. You speak more softly. You become aware of your presence. That's the point. The space edits your behavior. Retail architecture often pushes this even further. In luxury boutiques, mirrors and lighting are used to frame, not flood. A single item on a pedestal feels more expensive than a full shelf. A wide hallway between displays ensures that shoppers don't bump into each other. This space isn't just about comfort, it's about control. It defines how close people can get to products and to each other. Even color plays a role. Light, cool tones, grays, whites, pale woods create visual distance. They don't absorb, they reflect. They make the room feel clean, but also emotionally dry. This palette, common in high-end spaces, doesn't offer warmth, it offers clarity, and clarity keeps people measured. You'll find similar patterns in hospitality. In elite resorts, check-in desks are often discreet. Staff members approach you directly. You don't line up. The lounge might stretch out behind you, empty, except for a few low chairs and side tables. Everything feels calm, but also deliberate. You are placed, not just welcomed. Your presence is managed by the space. In contrast, economy hotels pack the lobby with couches, counters, and clusters of people. The design encourages overlap. In luxury settings, overlap is avoided. Each guest stays in their lane. In private homes, especially at the high end, design often hides certain functions. Kitchens are tucked away or split into two, one for show, one for use. Doors are hidden in paneling. Closets disappear behind smooth walls. These design tricks create visual quiet, but they also create distance between the owner and the mechanics of daily life. Someone else does the work. The design removes the need to touch, to clean, to carry. This isn't just convenience, it's hierarchy made physical. Spatial detachment is not just about beauty, it's about structure. It places people in roles, guest, owner, client, staff, and keeps them there. A visitor can feel it immediately. They don't know where to sit, where to walk, or how loud to speak. The space doesn't meet them halfway. It waits for them to adjust. These silent rules extend beyond the home. In corporate offices, boardrooms often feature large tables with wide spacing between seats. The CEO might sit alone at one end. There's plenty of room, but that room is a barrier. It stops quick conversation. It prevents closeness. It marks out rank without saying a word. At the highest levels, design doesn't just reflect power. It protects it. The space itself becomes a filter. If someone feels comfortable, they probably belong. If someone hesitates, they probably don't. And if they don't return, the design has done its job. Long before modern homes started looking like art galleries, luxury already had a history of distance. The idea that wealth should look untouchable didn't begin with white sofas and bare floors. It has deep roots. The story starts in European palaces and spreads through centuries of design meant not to comfort, but to impress. Versailles is one of the clearest early examples. Built for Louis XIV, it was more than a home. It was a stage. Every room had a role in a performance of power. The king's bedchamber was not private. Courtiers watched him wake up. They watched him dress. The space around him was designed to keep people at a distance, both physically and socially. The furniture was arranged in strict order. The materials were expensive, but not inviting. Gilded wood, cold marble, and stiff upholstery were not meant for ease. They were meant to show control, hierarchy, and spectacle. This kind of design didn't just say, "I'm rich." It said, "You don't belong here unless I allow it." The materials signaled importance. The layout enforced rank. Even movement was controlled. You didn't lean against walls. You didn't sit unless you were told. The room shaped your posture, your voice, your behavior. As time moved forward, the aristocratic home changed shape, but the message stayed. In Victorian England, drawing rooms became the new spaces for subtle power. These were not the grand halls of palaces, but they still performed class. The furniture was stiff. The arrangements were careful. Even the objects in the room, china, silver, books, were chosen to suggest refinement, not comfort. You didn't lounge in a Victorian drawing room. You sat upright. You didn't sprawl across the furniture. The room asked for restraint. The sofas and chairs were made to keep you proper. The goal was not to rest. It was to show that you didn't need rest. Women in corsets and men in stiff collars mirrored the room's posture. The home itself became an extension of social discipline. Even the clutter of these spaces had a message. Shelves were full, mantels were packed, but nothing was random. The arrangement showed taste, education, and control. Every object had a reason to be there. The room wasn't warm, it was curated. That pattern, design used to display social rank, carried into the modern era, but in new forms. As design moved away from decoration, it didn't lose its class signals. It just changed the language. Minimalism took the stage. At first glance, minimalism seems like the opposite of aristocratic luxury. Where palaces were gilded and busy, minimalist rooms are empty and plain. But the goal is the same, to show that you're above need. A room with almost nothing in it tells a story. It says the person who lives here doesn't need stuff, doesn't need comfort, doesn't need signs of life. That kind of restraint becomes its own form of wealth. Not everyone can afford to live without things. Not everyone can keep a white couch clean. Not everyone can walk across a concrete floor barefoot without flinching. Monastic spaces, bare rooms, stone floors, neutral walls, once stood for religious simplicity. They were meant to strip away distraction and attachment. Now, luxury design borrows from that look, but strips it of its meaning. A $10,000 sofa in a bare room mimics austerity, but it's not about humility. It's about control. The message is still, I don't need comfort, I've moved beyond it. Modern luxury often rebrands this kind of discipline. It sells a minimalist kitchen with no appliances in sight. It sells a bathroom made of stone with no towels on the rack. It calls this clean, elegant, timeless, but it still performs the same trick. It keeps the space untouched. This is how luxury uses history. It borrows from the past, not to recreate it, but to echo its effect. Versailles kept people out with gold and mirrors. Minimalist homes do it with silence and space. Victorian rooms use tight structure. Today's luxury uses empty surfaces. The tools change, the purpose stays. Even in the way people speak about design today, the old class theater shows up. You hear words like curated, intentional, or refined. These aren't about comfort. They're about editing, about removing signs of life, about making sure nothing looks accidental or out of place. That was true in a 19th century parlor. It's still true in a luxury condo today. There's also a direct line from aristocratic life to today's high-end design choices. Consider the formal dining room. Many luxury homes still include one, even if it's rarely used. The space often sits untouched. The table is long, the chairs are stiff, the lighting is cool. It's a room you look at, not live in. This echoes the banquet halls of palaces, rooms meant to impress, not serve daily needs. In the same way, many luxury homes include rooms that exist for show. The formal living room is often spotless. The books are unread. The sofa is never used. These rooms borrow their purpose from history. They create distance. They ask for performance. They show status through lack of function. Even design magazines and architecture books reflect this tradition. The spaces they feature are not meant to be used. They are meant to be admired. There are no messy kitchens, no signs of play, no wear and tear. The home becomes a stage, not a shelter. What's left out of these images is telling. You rarely see heating vents, power cords, laundry baskets, or trash bins. You don't see life happening. You see the idea of life, controlled and frozen. This goes back to the court of Louis XIV, where the image mattered more than the truth. What mattered was the appearance of perfection. That legacy runs through every layer of untouchable design. From gold trim to bare concrete, from carved moldings to matte plaster, the message is always the same. You are being watched. You are being measured. And your place in the room depends on how well you match it. The roots of untouchable design lie not just in taste, but in performance. Luxury has always been about more than comfort. It's about making sure everyone knows you don't need what others do, that you can live above the mess of daily life, that you can sit still on a hard chair and call it elegance, that your home can resist touch and still be called beautiful. So while the style changes, Baroque or modern, ornate or minimal, the script stays the same. The room is not for use. The room is for display. And if you don't feel at ease, you've read the message right. In luxury design, cost doesn't always buy comfort. Often, it buys something else entirely, something that looks beautiful, photographs well, and signals status, but doesn't actually work that well in daily life. This is the functional paradox. When something becomes less useful, it somehow feels more valuable. In the world of high-end interiors, that trade-off is often intentional. You might walk into a living room and see a sculptural sofa in pale suede, curved like a question mark. It's stunning. It sits under a large window, surrounded by marble floors and tall white walls. But as you move closer, you realize the seat is shallow, the cushions are stiff, and the fabric is delicate enough to stain if someone sits down in jeans. The sofa is expensive, but it's not for sitting. That isn't a flaw in the design, it's the point. In these spaces, function takes a back seat. Use becomes secondary to presence. What matters is how a piece looks, what it says about the owner, and how rare or refined it appears. A fragile chair signals that you can afford to have furniture that doesn't get touched. A glass table with sharp edges shows that no children run through the room. The inconvenience becomes proof of status. This logic shows up in entire homes. Some high-end residences feel more like museums than places to live. Floors are polished to the point of slipperiness. Light switches are hidden in the walls. Kitchens are sleek and silent, with no visible tools or food. Closets are lined with mirrors, not clothes. The home looks perfect, but it doesn't invite activity. It doesn't make life easier. It keeps life at a distance. In one such home, the owner had a dining table carved from a single slab of stone. It dominated the room and weighed nearly a ton. It was impossible to move. The chairs around it were thin and stiff, made of lacquered wood. They scraped the floor when pulled out and offered no support. Dinner there became a chore. But guests remembered the look of the space. That was the goal. Another homeowner installed a custom-built bathtub in the center of their bedroom. The tub was made of hand-poured concrete and cost more than most kitchens. It was a design statement, but it took 20 minutes to fill, and the water cooled quickly. The plumbing was delicate. After a few uses, the owner stopped using it altogether. Still, the tub stayed. It had become a symbol. These examples aren't rare. In many cases, function is trimmed down to the bare minimum to maintain aesthetic control. Doors are replaced with hidden panels. Closets are minimized to reduce visual clutter. Bathrooms feature sinks without visible hardware, requiring guests to guess how to turn on the water. Lighting is controlled by digital panels, so minimal they look like part of the wall. If you haven't been trained on the system, you won't know how to use it. This isn't bad design in a technical sense. These systems often use high-end materials, custom fabrication, and cutting-edge technology. But the effect is the same. They remove ease. They make the user pause, and that pause becomes part of the experience. You are not supposed to move through the space without thought. You are supposed to notice yourself in it. Even storage, a key function in any home, is often hidden or eliminated in luxury spaces. Kitchens have no visible tools or food. Bathrooms hide personal items behind smooth panels. The absence of clutter is seen as refinement. But it often means the space can't carry the weight of real life. You live around the room, not in it. Luxury also avoids wear. Many high-end materials don't age well. Pale woods, raw concrete, polished stone, and untreated metals all show marks. They stain, they chip, they scratch. So the spaces built with them quietly ask not to be used. Or they demand a level of care that's hard to maintain without staff. This builds another layer of distance. If you're worried about sitting, eating, or walking through your own home, the design has done more than shape the space. It's shaped your behavior. Some homes go further, building in obstacles to ordinary use. A designer might install stairs without railings or counters with sharp edges. A light fixture might hang just low enough to bump your head if you're not careful. These aren't mistakes. They are choices made in the name of aesthetics. The message is clear. This house is not about comfort. It's about image. You'll also find pieces in luxury homes that are valuable not because of how they work, but because of how rare they are. A chair made in a limited run, a table designed by a name-brand architect. These objects are collected like art. Their presence is what matters, not their performance. In fact, using them might damage them, so they stay in place, admired but untouched. This turns furniture into symbol. A do-not-sit sofa doesn't need a sign. Its material, color, and placement say it all. It's too light, too smooth, or too perfect to hold a body. You hesitate before using it. You sit on the edge. You apologize for leaving a crease. That discomfort becomes part of the room's value. It tells the story of care, precision, and control. Even outdoor spaces are not immune to this paradox. Some high-end homes feature gardens that are fully designed but rarely touched. The grass is trimmed, the stones are swept, the plants are selected for symmetry over smell or shade. There's no place to lie down, no path to wander. The space is for viewing, not for rest. It's the landscape version of a do not touch sign. Technology adds another layer. Smart homes allow control over light, temperature, sound, and security, but often at the cost of basic clarity. A simple task, like turning on a lamp or adjusting the blinds, becomes an interface problem. You need to know where to tap, how to swipe, or which app to open. Again, this is not a glitch. It's part of the design. Ease is not the goal. Control is. This functional paradox, the idea that something becomes more luxurious as it becomes less practical, relies on one core assumption, that the owner doesn't need the space to serve them, that they can live without convenience, that they can afford to work around the design, or, more often, that someone else will do the actual living tasks, cleaning, cooking, adjusting for them. In this way, the space reflects a broader system. When function is removed, someone else has to pick it up. The labor doesn't vanish, it's just made invisible. The perfect floor stays perfect because someone polishes it. The white couch stays white because someone guards it. The minimalist kitchen still feeds people, but likely from another room. So when luxury removes function, it's not just changing how a space looks. It's changing how people live in it and who gets to live there comfortably. Use becomes a private matter. Beauty stays on display. And the more impractical something is, the more it tells you, this is not for everyone. Design doesn't just shape what a space looks like. It shapes who feels welcome and who doesn't. In luxury environments, this shaping is often subtle. There are no signs that say you don't belong here, but the message still comes through. It's in the layout, the materials, the lighting, and the lack of certain features. These choices create invisible boundaries. They make it clear who the space is for and who should keep moving. A velvet rope in front of a door is the most obvious version of this, but design often works without such signs. A hard bench with no backrest tells you not to stay long. A lobby with no seating tells you not to wait. A hallway with no side tables, no plants, no artwork is a corridor, not a place to pause. The space controls behavior through what it allows and what it leaves out. People who lean, linger, or loiter often rely on public features that support pause. Wide ledges, benches, alcoves, overhangs. These are often missing in elite environments. Designers remove them on purpose. The goal is to keep people upright, moving, and aware of their posture. You don't settle into a luxury store or a corporate lobby. You pass through. Even in spaces that do offer seating, the message can still be about control. A high-end hotel lobby may have chairs, but they're spaced apart, low to the ground, and uncomfortable. You can sit, but you won't stay long. The staff may not say a word, but you'll feel the clock ticking. The design does the work. This isn't only about comfort, it's about power. When a space tells you where you can go, how long you can stay, and what you can do while there, it's setting the rules. In luxury environments, those rules often serve the people with money and status. Everyone else is expected to adjust. The result is that some people move freely, while others second-guess every step. Retail design is a clear example. In high-end shops, the space is often quiet, cold, and open. Products are spaced out. Staff members stand still and watch. There's no music. There are few mirrors. There are no shopping carts. These choices limit movement. They slow you down. They make it harder to browse casually. That can feel elegant or intimidating. If you don't already know what you're there for, the store isn't going to help. Compare that to a discount store. The aisles are narrow, the shelves are full, the lighting is bright, there's room to wander, there are signs, baskets, and bins. You're allowed to touch, to pick up, to linger. The design invites a wide range of users. It accepts different rhythms and behaviors. Luxury spaces do the opposite. They reduce access points, they minimize touch, they favor control over openness. This isn't just taste, it's politics. It sorts people based on how easily they can match the space's expectations. If you move slowly, speak loudly, or carry visible belongings, you may feel out of place. If you dress the wrong way, or enter with children, or pause too long in the wrong spot, you may feel watched. In some cases, the space pushes back even harder. Take public plazas outside luxury buildings. These are sometimes required by law, but they're designed in ways that discourage public use. Benches have dividers so people can't lie down. Grass is surrounded by stone ledges that are too narrow to sit on. Water features make noise, but don't allow play. Trees are placed for show, not shade. The space remains technically open, but functionally closed. These are forms of exclusion that don't look like exclusion. They don't rely on fences or security guards. They rely on discomfort. If you can't find a place to sit, you'll move on. If the lighting makes you feel exposed, you'll leave. If the sound bounces off hard surfaces and makes conversation hard, you'll lower your voice or stop speaking. The space edits your behavior before anyone else has to. This approach extends to scent, temperature, and acoustics. Luxury spaces often smell neutral or expensive. Subtle fragrances, no food, no sweat. They're cool in temperature, designed for people who arrive by car or live nearby. They're quiet, with soft echoes and hushed tones. These choices exclude bodies that move loudly, need rest, or carry the smells of outside life. Even time is part of the design. High-end spaces often operate on an unstated schedule. If you arrive early or stay late, the staff may not say anything, but you'll feel it. The lights dim, the chairs get stacked, the music stops. The design nudges you toward the door. That control of time mirrors control of space. The room isn't yours, even while you're in it. Private homes reflect this as well. In luxury architecture, the front door is often hidden or set back. Visitors approach through long paths or quiet entries. This slows access and increases control. Once inside, the layout may separate guest space from family space. Doors are solid. Corridors are empty. You're not free to explore. You're kept in the part of the house that's been prepared for you. That separation is not accidental. It protects the interior and signals that access is limited. Even in shared areas, this dynamic holds. A living room may be large, but the seating is spread out. A kitchen may be visible, but not usable. The message is, stay in your lane. Use what's meant for you. Don't cross into spaces that haven't been offered. This isn't just about privacy. It's about who gets to feel at home. In many luxury spaces, the person who owns the space is the only one whose comfort matters. Everyone else is managed through design, not rules. You don't need to be told where not to go. The space tells you. Design can welcome or exclude. It can support freedom or enforce order. In high-end environments, it often does both, but only for certain people. If you move in the right way, dress the right way, speak the right way, the space opens up. If not, it closes down. No one needs to ask you to leave. You'll feel it in the stiffness of the chairs, the absence of shade, the lack of a place to rest. This is the politics of space. It's not loud, it doesn't make a scene, but it works. It shapes who stays, who leaves, and who never enters at all. Luxury often presents itself as comfort, but many of the spaces we call luxurious are anything but. They look perfect, but they don't welcome the body. They impress, but they don't soothe. The couch is there, but it's too stiff to relax on. The kitchen is spotless, but nothing smells like food. The light is soft, but it leaves the corners cold. You move through these spaces carefully. You keep your voice down. You sit with your back straight. The space shapes your behavior without a word. Untouchable design does this by removing what makes a space feel human. It removes warmth, softness, and signs of use. It resists wear. It avoids mess. It's not meant for life as it is. It's meant to signal life as it should appear. That appearance carries status. It says you don't need comfort. You don't need clutter. You live without needing to touch anything. We've seen this in the history of wealth. Versailles, Victorian parlors, minimalist penthouses, all different in style, but alike in purpose. They use space to hold people at a distance. They say this is for show. They reward stillness, posture, and silence. The less you need from the room, the more you seem to belong. And if you do need something, support, warmth, rest, it might not be there. The materials tell part of the story. Stone, glass, lacquer, and polished metal resist the hand. They are beautiful, but they don't give. A child's fingerprints, a dog's paw, or a dropped cup would mark them. So the people who live among them must adjust, or they must hire someone to erase every sign of life. That's the quiet trade these spaces require, beauty in exchange for control. Distance shows up in how the space is arranged, too. Seating is spread out, hallways are long, doorways are wide. The room does not close in, it keeps you at arm's length. Even in a home, you might feel like a visitor. The more expensive the space, the less you're allowed to settle. It's not just how it looks, it's how it makes you move. So what kind of life is a space inviting you to live? Is it one where you stretch out and make a mess? Or one where you watch your steps, speak quietly, and leave no trace? What does the room expect of you, and what does it say about who belongs in it? Untouchable design doesn't ask for comfort. It asks for discipline. It doesn't invite presence. It rewards performance. And if you find yourself standing in a room that looks flawless but makes you feel out of place, that's not a failure. That's the design doing its job. If you don't feel at home, that's the point.